we had a question sent in by one of our listeners, Kwadwo Haming, and it was asking how difficult is it, particularly as the Gambia manager, to imprint a style and a philosophy on a national team with such a variation of players. You've players coming through the U20 system, who did really well last year at the AFCON. Most of your players are based in Europe or abroad, and then, very few come from Gambia. How do you kind of imprint a philosophy onto a team where everyone is coming, every time just for a week or two from all around the world?
Yeah, even not for a week or two. I give you an example. When my first match was in September 2018 with Gambia, we played on a Thursday, and my players flew in on a Monday. So I had them on Tuesday and Wednesday. I had 2 training days, and that was it. When we played Chad in March, they decided to play the first match on a Wednesday, and the FIFA break starts on Monday. So the players had to fly from all over Europe on Monday. We trained on Tuesday, and on Wednesday was the match. So it's very limited. But the good thing is, I worked in so many countries and I had similar situations. Okay, in Ethiopia, I had only local-based players. In Namibia, I had majority local-based players. But for instance, in Togo, I had also all professional players. And in Trinidad and Tobago, I had also no time. So I have a habit of being able to make the strategy as simple as possible to explain to players, both in the meeting room as on training ground. To teach them as fast as possible the basics from what I expect. And the second thing is choosing the players you think who can execute it. Many times, national team coach, and I also get criticized for not selecting player A or B because he is performing in a league, but maybe he is not suitable for the strategy you want to play. And that people forget. You cannot select every player who is performing well. First of all, you would have probably only strikers and no defenders in your selection. Secondly, it's the type of game plan you have where you look for players. And the luck I had in my style of playing in Gambia, where I think people know it, play from a very good organization, a very well disciplined team, that I had a lot of players who played their football in Italy. I think I had 6 or 7 players playing in Italy, a country where coaches demand a lot of tactical discipline. And that helped also naturally. My choice for Italian-based players was also, they have the quality, but also they are used to the tactical demands from their coaches and to implement them easier for us. But it's not easy. So that is so important for a coach to make the right choices. Like we played AFCON with players who played in 4th division in Sweden, Germany, Denmark, England, and even 5th division in Switzerland. We had players playing in the Premier League in Russia or other countries who were not there. But the choice for certain players is because I knew 100% they will execute and implement what I want tactically in the short period of time we have together. And before AFCON, the FIFA date started 27 December. We had 12 January, our first match. So we had 2 weeks. We had a camp in Qatar, but in Qatar, we had then the COVID strike and a lot of people couldn't travel. Do you know that the first time I could train on training 11 against 11 with 2 goalkeepers was 8 January in Cameroon, was 4 days before our first match against Mauritania. That was the first time I could train 11 against 11. All the weeks, the 1.5 week before, we could not play a friendly. We had to cancel our friendly against Algeria and Syria because of the COVID and injuries and illness and these kind of things. But we couldn't even train 11 against 11 on training. So 8 January was the first time I had the whole team together. And still, because the players know what the coach expects, selecting a vast group of players is also very important. That as a national team coach, and I learned that from Guus Hiddink. When Guus Hiddink was in 2002 in the World Cup with South Korea, his assistant coach was Pim Verbeek. Later, he became also national team coach of South Korea, Australia, and Oman. sadly enough, delayed Pim Verbeek because he died on much too young age a few years ago. But I was in touch with him, and he told me that when they started in Korea, they treated their national team as a club team, not always changing the players, but having a vast group of players, let's say 17, 18 players, who are always there, who know what coach wants in and off the pitch, because it's not only what you want on the pitch in a game, but also the attitude and the habits in the camp, from eating, from how to behave, because it's a whole performance. If you're together in a hotel with young guys, it's easy to get attracted to the wrong things, and it's important that you have a group who keep their focus on football. So that's also the reason that what I learned from Hiddink and Verbeek is you need to treat your national team as a club team. You don't need to change every camp 10, 15 different players. You need to have that base who know exactly what to do, and step by step you include new players, but you don't change every camp all the players, because you don't have the time to train, and you don't have the time to explain everything, both from rules to on the pitch strategy. So yeah, that's a little bit how to cope with the very limited time you have with players.
I mean, this very much goes along with one of the other questions we had from Scott Gielan, which was kind of what are the challenges in tracking a national pool spread over, the entire world. I mean, I think I remember when we were speaking last time, you said you've 120 plus players in Europe, you've players playing in South Korea and stuff. And kind of, yeah, what is the way, especially now, you said some players are moving on, how do you manage that where you're trying to get information and data and, scouts from all over the world?
Yeah, to be honest, I do everything myself. I have a list of about 150 players who I follow all over the world on a weekly basis. The modern times make it a little bit easy. We have internet, we have different website, Transfermarkt. We can Google on nationality, on country of birth, on second nationality, but even Google on names. I know all the Gambian names, or the majority of the Gambian names. So if a player in a country has a certain name and he has maybe a different nationality, he could be from Gambian descent. And the FIFA rule makes clear that if you are born in a country, you can play for a country, but also if one of your parents is born or one of your grandparents is born there. So I also in previous countries I had that. So I really went from day one. I had already, before I started, a whole list of possible Gambian players. And I was very active. The first year I lived full-time in Gambia. I screened a lot of the players. I spoke with local coaches. I saw all the talent. And then it was clear that the majority, or almost all the players, or even all the players, play outside the Gambia. And then we decided that it was better that I travel a lot. And I travel a lot in Europe. I'm going to watch a lot of matches all over Europe, sometimes to players who I know, sometimes to players who I never saw before, only to convince or to have an idea of their qualities or to convince them. I do that all out of my own pocket. I pay my own flights, my own hotels, my own fuel, because I'm passionate about my job, and I really want to get the best for the team. And you can say, okay, you can work with scouts, and naturally there are people sometimes giving me tips. I have in Italy Alessandro Soli, an Italian scout who also follow football for me. But there's no one else better than me who can see if a player is suitable for me. Because I know exactly what I want. I know exactly what I want from skills, from physical structure, from attitude. So when I go for scouting and I talk to a player, things got easy, clear. Is it the player I want, or is it not the player I want? So I spend a lot of time in that, but it's also my passion, and I think it's important to do your job with passion. And in modern times, it's easier because one click on the internet and you have a lot of information. Mm-hmm. But it's very, very interesting, and sure, because we don't have much time for friendly matches, it's very interesting to visit the players, to watch them in their teams. And if we have training camps, I always try to invite a few new names to have a look at them and see, are they suitable for the team? How do they adapt? What is their level, and these kind of things.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a lot, for those saying that, club management is where it's tough. There's still a lot of work in the breaks between national team camps, for sure. I mean, just going back to looking at the AFCON, obviously for you guys, it was an amazing experience and you know, did perform brilliantly, but there were also some kind of issues off the pitch. You know, we had complaints from, you know, the Gambian side, and as well as some other teams like Malawi about, you know, the state of their hotels and the way they were treated in terms of COVID regulations and things like that. You know, what was your experience like in Cameroon, and how did you deal with it?
First of all, I have to say that it was a fantastic tournament. I really enjoyed it. I played the Gulf Cup in Bahrain. I played the AFC Cup under 17 in Japan. Qualified there with under Qatar under 17 for the World Cup long ago in 2004. And I played COSAFA and SECAFA Cups. For me, this Africa Cup was the best. It was a fantastic experience. The fans were amazing. The stadiums were fantastic. I had the luck that we saw a lot of Cameroon because we stayed in long till the quarterfinal. We were in Limbe, we were in Bafoussam, and we were in Douala. So a fantastic, amazing football country and a fantastic experience. COVID-wise, we didn't experience really a problem. We had one player who tested positive and one staff member. But what I hear from other teams is that not all the teams treated COVID as it had to be. I hear that some certain teams had COVID cases, but didn't put these people in quarantine. They were still sleeping in the same room. They were still eating together with people or traveling with the bus. Yeah, then that means a little bit lack of knowledge of COVID. What we did, and we had since 2020 the support of government and most of all federation. We had single rooms for every player and every staff member because that was crucial. If someone had COVID but he sleeps in a single room, the chances is limited that it spread. We had obligation made to every player to wear masks, walking around in the hotel, sitting in the bus, you wear masks, flying, you wear masks. So we were very strict in that, and our medical team followed up also the temperature. We had every morning temperature checks from every player. So we were, as a team, very well prepared, and I cannot say that Cameroon or organization was manipulating anything to COVID. The stories were there about Malawi, about Comoros, but later I heard that, for instance, Comoros, what I heard was not putting people in quarantine when they had COVID, and then it spreads very easy naturally. So I don't think there was any problem in that. It's maybe the lack of experience. I have a very good medical team, and we had a lot of experience with it. So we didn't struggle with it. We had only the struggle with COVID when we started the camp, but that were the people who brought it from Europe and from Gambia. Upon arrival in their first test, they had COVID, and then it spread in the first days. But the moment we arrived in Cameroon, we had one case, Ibrahima Darboux from AS Roma. Strangely enough, he tested also positive in Qatar 2 weeks earlier, and he tested positive in Morocco 1 month ago. So in the last 3 months, he had 3 times positive test on COVID. And strangely, 2 days later, he tested always negative. So maybe it's something in his blood. Or I don't know, I'm not a medical person, but we had no problems with that. We had a fantastic first hotel and a good atmosphere there, but then we had to move to Bafoussam. We were in Bana, and I explained that already that time in the press conference. We were not as satisfied with the hotel because the hotel was not the same standard as what we used in Buea, where we played in Limbe, and also later when we went to Douala, we had a top standard hotel. Only that hotel, what we had at that period of time, was not standard. And we had food poisoning, same as Cape Verde, the same evening in the same hotel, where around 10 players got very sick. One had to get on an infuse. 2 players dropped out an hour before the game. Saidi Yangu with blood pressure under 90. And also Ibu Touré from Salford, who had to drop out 30 minutes before the game because he was almost fainting. So there were some problems, but we managed it. And in general, okay, at that moment as a coach, I addressed it in the press conference because I want to fight for my team and for my nation. I want also to use it as a quality and a strength for my players to be more ready to fight against a common enemy. But in general, I have to say that the tournament was a fantastic tournament. Very well organized, fantastic football country with great atmosphere. And the only thing I can say, we were very sad that we had to leave 1 week too early. We were ready to stay till the end, but it was a great experience.
That's really good to hear. I mean, you guys, you're saying it's a shame you had to leave early, but I want to ask, what was it like when you left and arrived back in Gambia? What was the reception like? How was that experience?
Yeah, we first of all, when we got kicked out by Cameroon, yeah, it was expectable by everyone, but we were very down. For us, it was a cold shower, and we were really, a lot of players were crying, and for me, it took a long, many days, even more than days, more than weeks, to recover from the defeat against Cameroon. It's strange. You start as an underdog, and no one expects you to reach that far. But don't forget, people talk about country as Comoros, but Comoros played 4 games, won 1 and lost 3. Gambia played 5 games, lost only 1 against Cameroon. We conceded before the Cameroon match only 1 goal from Mali, a penalty, and we won Mauritania, we won Guinea-Conakry, we won Tunisia. So we were really in a winning mood, and we had really the intention to reach the final and to become African champion, knowing that it would be almost unrealistic. But when you reach there, you get addicted to the game and to the tournament, and it was really a huge disappointment that we got kicked out. The feeling of having done something amazing was not the feeling what was on top of everything. The feeling was more the disappointment from, shit, we are kicked out, and we really wanted to stay longer. I think that's the winner mentality, what you need to achieve things, not be satisfied with things, but always wanting more, and that's positive. That can make us stronger. Going back to Gambia, I didn't even go back to Gambia, and the majority of our staff and players didn't go back to Gambia because we were stuck in Douala for 3 days, and players had to return to their clubs, and clubs were demanding their players back. We were waiting for a plane what would not come. It was almost waiting for Godot. On the end at night, on Tuesday night, we got kicked out on Saturday. On Tuesday night, finally there was a plane going, and the players arrived at night, but they never had the celebration with the fans as what we expected, what other nations had. So there was never a round trip by bus. There was never a celebration with the fans. There were some fans at the airport in the middle of the night, but it was never a big celebration. And they got hosted by the president of the country for half an hour, and that was it. So that was a little bit of disappointment, because everyone saw how in the past Madagascar, but also in the current tournament, so many nations welcomed their heroes. We didn't have that, and that was really disappointing, because you wanted to drive around on a bus and sitting on the roof and celebrating. The fans were ready for it, because of the delay of the return flight, it never happened.
That is such a disappointment. I mean, just from my perspective, covering the tournament, my whole, especially in the build up to that quarterfinal, my whole Twitter and Facebook, every social media feed was just clogged up with Gambians just talking about their support. And that's such a disappointment, because I know it's such a football crazy nation. I mean, looking now towards the future, we had another question from Yar El Shabori saying, the AFCON was a huge success for the team, but now what needs to happen to ensure that you can consistently become competitive and you can consistently start qualifying to AFCON? How do you avoid being, like a Madagascar and just a one-off team?
A few things are important in that development. First of all, we as coaching staff and players, we have to be, like I said, realistic. We don't have to think now that we are Barcelona, Manchester City, or a national team that we are Algeria or Senegal. We are still a small football nation who performed very well. And we will have to start every game with 0-0. We have to be modest, we have to be humble, and we have to respect our opponents. We have to prepare ourselves well, and will have to play in a strategy. At the moment we think as individuals that we can play football free out of strategy, and then we will lose every match. And that's also sometimes my fear, because we played some well organized football, and there are fans who then shout, but we are good in striking, let's play attacking football. It's proven in the past in Gambia that when Gambia play attacking football, they lose the matches. We had problems with Djibouti, we had problems with Chad, because then we are forced to play more attacking football. And before my arrival, don't forget that Gambia had their last competitive win in September 2013, and that they were 5 years without a competitive win till I arrived in 2018, July 2018. So, I mean, thinking now, and there were many players, the Omar Collies, the Pamadou Jans, the Asan Sisses were already years before I came already playing for the national team. So we have to be modest, we have to respect the strategy, we have to keep our feet on the ground and play according to strategy. That's the first thing. The next thing is to become a regular and to become a respected country as Senegal or other African nations. The individual development of players will be very important. We have players in big clubs, but the majority of our players in big clubs are not playing. We have a lot of players who don't get game time or very limited game time in their clubs in Europe. So when we want to develop as a football nation, to be a powerhouse, to compete with on a regular basis, to compete with the big nations in African football, it will be very important that the young lads we have develop into regulars in European top-class football. We have players like Ibrahima Colley in Spezia, Ibrahima Darbu in AS Roma, others, Sulman Mari in Ghent, but these guys didn't play a minute the whole season. So then you have to look from, if they develop and they're going to be regulars and play regular in European clubs in the highest level, then Gambian football will be also developing in the way that we can compete on a regular base to qualify 2023, 2025, and why not, inshallah, 2026 World Cup. But these two things are very important. Ourselves, our own take to games with being respectful for opponents and not overrating ourselves. And secondly, the individual development of players.
The other thing I wanted to ask is we have seen a couple of reports come in the last couple of weeks, kind of from Gambian journalists saying that, you know, some of the players haven't actually been paid some of the bonuses for the AFCON. Do you care to comment on that and your own situation?
No, but it's correct information. It's only a little bit sad that the news comes out the moment the federation has already agreed to do the payment the coming weeks. It's so that the federation always communicated very open and clear to the players and staff about missing bonuses. They were waiting for funds coming from CAF, and the moment the funds from CAF arrived, they communicated to the players, hey guys and staff, we have received the money. This is the next step of payment. And so it's a little bit sad, and we are in a year of elections in Gambian football where presidency is at stake of the federation, and sometimes I think information is also leaked and framed to more manipulate things than only to help the case. Like I said, I'm not so worried. I have very close contact with the federation president and all the board members, and they assured us long before the message was leaked into the media, of the info was leaked, that the money will be paid the coming weeks. So and I have no reason to doubt it.
Mm-hmm. That's good, and hopefully that'll come in the next couple of weeks. I mean, you've spoken a lot about how to, you know, move on from the AFCON, how to build for the next one, and you've talked a lot about keeping grounded as a squad, and you know, I guess fortunately or unfortunately, Gambia are the only team who are at the AFCON who had to play this preliminary qualifier for the next AFCON because of your kind of ranking previous to the tournament. You know, how was that experience of playing Chad? Obviously, it was really tight, and you know, you're talking about a lack of preparation. You know, what is it like now coming back as a camp? You know, as a team now qualified for the qualifiers for the next AFCON. What is the kind of mood in the team, and how was that experience of playing Chad over the two legs?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's ridiculous that a country who becomes sixth on the Africa Cup of Nations have to play less than 2 months later a pre-qualification for the next AFCON. It's respectless, and it could have been avoided very easy. Postponing the draw 2 weeks. I mean, now they did the draw 5 weeks before the qualification for the group stage. They could have waited also 2 or 3 weeks longer to wait after AFCON to have the last update of the FIFA ranking. and then make the draw. Because when we started AFCON, we were 115 in the world, as you addressed in your opening of this interview. We were 150 and the worst ever ranked African team to qualify for Africa Cup. But we improved. Currently, we are 123. On the end of the AFCON, we were 125. There, at the moment that AFCON was finished, there were 21 African nations worse than us on the FIFA ranking. But when they did the draw, we were still by the 8 worst countries in the ranking. So, or you wait 2-3 weeks longer to do the draw and have a fair, actual perspective of the ranking of teams, or you say the teams who are qualified for AFCON don't play pre-qualification. You could do also they are immediately qualified to AFCON, because it would have been terrible for the development. So I was not happy with that draw. Also knowing that, strange enough, we had the most difficult opponent possible. I mean, we could have played, with all respect for the nations, we could have played Sao Tome and Principe, we could have played Seychelles, we could have played Mauritius or these kind of countries, but Chad is a very good football country. Chad played also qualification last time in the group with Namibia, Guinea-Conakry, and I think Mali. And they drew even with Guinea-Conakry. And Chad has professional players in France, in the Belgian Premier League. So Chad is not an easy country to play against. It's a good team, and they did a great job. So before the matches, I was really not happy. I would have preferred to use this window to prepare my new team. I mean, some players stopped playing football after the World Cup, after the Africa Cup. I had to select new players for different positions. So I really had preferred to have 2 games, friendly games in March, to select certain players for certain positions, like other countries could do. But we were forced into these qualification games. And it was tough, as I predicted. We won 0-1 in the last minute in Chad. I have to say that in Chad, we played very well. We were fully controlled. We had a lot of opportunities. They had some counterattacks, but we were really in control of it. But the return match at home, we couldn't play at home. And Chad away, we played in Cameroon, in Yaoundé, and Gambia home, we played in Agadir in Morocco, because of the stadiums of both countries are not ready to play games according to FIFA and CAF. And so we had to play in Morocco, leading 0-1 from the previous match. But it was very tough, because Chad has, first of all, quality. They were well prepared, and they were very motivated. They were more aggressive in a positive way, more eager, more hungry in the return game. And we had to wait till the dying minutes to make the equalizer to bring us the qualification. And we had the same experience with Djibouti in 2019, when we went in the group stage and later won it ahead of Gabon, DR Congo, and Angola. And now we had again a tough experience. So I think these pre-qualifications, I know now, because of our FIFA ranking in the future, 2025, if everything goes normal, we don't have to play pre-qualification. But it was not a pleasant experience. But we went through it, and I think it makes it stronger. And let me say that I can be happy that we went through in a difficult way, because it's a sign for my players that we have to keep our feet on the ground, that nothing will be easy, that facing South Sudan, Congo Brazzaville, and Mali will be again tough opponents, and that we have to play with a lot of respect for our opponents, because that we are not yet a powerhouse in African football. So how much I hated the pre-qualification, I think I can use it in the mindset preparation of our players for the coming qualifiers in June.
Mm-hmm. And you alluded to it there in terms of the qualification against Chad, playing outside of Gambia. It might be likely that you'll have to play the whole qualification as well, whether it's Senegal or Morocco. How does that impact you, both in terms of your preparation for these qualifiers, but also just for the players, not being able to play in front of a big crowd at home? How does that impact your preparation?
Yeah, naturally we were looking forward to play for our own crowds, also because we had no celebration after the qualification. On the other side, we have to be also fair. When we qualified for the 2021-22 AFCON, we played at home against Gabon in COVID times without fans. and we qualified against Angola in COVID times also without fans. So 2 of our 3 home games in the previous qualification were at home, but without fans. But the biggest difference is naturally the climate, the stadium, the hotel, for players also to meet their families, to be home in your own country, to play at home. What we noticed, for instance, when we played in Agadir, was that people of the Moroccan organization had no clue that we were the home team. So we were not allowed to train where we wanted. They were even giving advantage to Chad. We really had to fight to say, hey, but we are the home team. This is not a neutral ground. Chad played home already. Now it's our home ground. Chad can play that day in that stadium, but in training infrastructure, we have the priority. If we want to train on pitch A, Chad cannot train on pitch A, they can train on pitch B. But this is our home now. But the Moroccans didn't understand that for one way. So, that are small things because, I mean, it gets irritation in the group, also in the hotel, in things. And you want to be treated as a host, as the best team. The small advantages you have when you play at home is that you can train more in your own stadium, that you know the weather circumstances, that you have more control over the food the hotel serves, and this kind of stuff. So that falls away when you play abroad. If it's in Senegal or it's in Morocco, it will never be the same. Senegal is closer, and sure, Senegalese fans probably will support us. Also, more Gambian fans will be able to come to Senegal, but still, it's not our home ground. It's not our stadium. It's not our pitch. It's not our hotel. It's not ours, and it has a negative effect. It's a little bit strange that I believe 26 countries cannot play at home. I don't know if the stadiums are in that bad situation that you can't play, or if the rules are a little bit too strict for the circumstances. I mean, if you could play last year in March still at home, and now not in March, it's a little bit in 1 year. The stadium can't be that bad, or the situation can be not that much changed. So a little bit sad, but I'm a football man. I'm not an organizational man, not involved in the stadium infrastructure and in the rules by CAF and FIFA. So I have to accept, and I will play where we have to play.
Absolutely. I mean, I just want to ask you finally one last question, Tom. You know, you've got to the quarterfinals of the AFCON. You know, now going into 2023. What is the goal? What is the target for you, and what is the goal for the Gambian Federation?
Yeah, I think everyone wants to qualify again. I mean, the taste of the Africa Cup in Cameroon was very sweet, yeah, we want to taste it again. Once you taste it, I told you already when we were kicked out, it was really a huge disappointment. It was not so from okay, we reached quarterfinal, now we are happy. No, we were very disappointed, and everyone is ready to fight and battle to go again. But we know Mali is a good football nation, Congo Brazzaville is a very good football nation, and also South Sudan can't be underestimated. We played all 3 countries the last 2 years. Mali in AFCON, we played a draw against them. Against South Sudan, we played last year in October in Morocco, and we won 2-1. And against Congo Brazzaville, we played in 2020 in October in Portugal, a friendly, and won 1-0. But that doesn't say anything. We are the 3rd ranked team in this group, and we will have to battle for every point. I think it's a little bit similar group as the group we qualified with Gabon, DRC, and Angola. It will be, there's not a Nigeria, not a Cameroon, or not an Algeria in it. So it are teams who are more equal, and it will be very narrow on the end. The point difference will be very limited, and we'll decide who will qualify. So our aim is now to qualify, and we don't look further than that, because that would be deadly. Qualifying is the main task, and if we can do that, it will be amazing, because if Gambia can qualify twice in a row for Africa Cup, that will be already a world achievement for the country.
Absolutely. And I mean, for those of us who are neutrals, I mean, I'm sure most would agree with me. We want to see the Scorpions back at the AFCON. They were such a brilliant addition. Coach, thank you so much for joining us today around Africa's biggest braai. And if you're listening, to those who are listening to the podcast, you know, it doesn't end here. We keep going online. The discussion and the debate continues. Come find us at OTW_podcast on Twitter and Instagram. and just search On the Whistle podcast on Facebook and YouTube to find us, and wherever you get your podcast, on Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere else. Thank you so much, Coach. Really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. Looking forward to talk soon again.